There are just some things in this life that you can't seem to categorize, and the Polaris Scrambler is one of those. Now, from a distance, the Scrambler looks kind of like a sport quad with its sharp angled and trimmed fenders sitting high above the small diameter tires. But, you know, as you get closer, rather than being a small and lightweight two-wheel drive machine with a low center of gravity, you discover that it's actually a pretty big machine that's both tall and woefully heavy. Now, although there's a swing arm at the rear for suspension, as well as a chain drive and a disc brake, up front you're going to find struts rather than the anticipated A-arms. Plus, it has floorboards rather than foot pegs. And four-wheel drive. And unlike sport quads, it has a single lever braking system. Okay, so it's not a sport quad. But it's not really any kind of a utility machine either. First of all, there's no front and rear racks, and the fenders are just way too small, and they couldn't keep dust off of those little 23-inch tires off the rider, let alone mud or snow. Plus, there's no low range, and it has a chain drive. So here's where we give up trying to figure out exactly what the Scrambler is or what its purpose is for its very existence, and just hop on it and take it for a spin. Now, swing a leg over the Scrambler and either put the CVT transmission in neutral or hold the brake on while it's in gear and twist the key to start the big 498cc four-stroke single. Whoops. Now, did we mention that it's carbureted? So if it's cold outside, you might also need to pull the choke lever. Now, once started, all you need to do is give that thumb throttle a push to get the Scrambler moving. And once moving, you'll once again be wondering what this machine is for. It's quick, but not really any quicker than the latest Sportsman 550 XP. And it seems to handle pretty well, but not really noticeably better than the XP. It's also really comfortable. But again, not any more comfortable than the XP. Confused? So are we. Now, the Scrambler was introduced way back in 1995 as a 400cc two-stroke. It was such a hit that in '97, Polaris released a big-bore four-stroke version, the Scrambler 500. Now, at that time, in case you weren't born yet, sport quads were nothing like they are now. So when Polaris introduced the two-stroke Scrambler 400 and later the big-bore four-stroke Scrambler 500, they were really big news. Now, here was a big-bore sport quad with four-wheel drive. Now, it was no Banshee, that's for sure, but it also definitely wasn't like any of the 1997 utility quads either. Obviously, times have changed. Today's utility ATVs could probably outrun and outhandle many of the sport quads from that time. So, where does that leave the Scrambler? Well, basically unchanged since its introduction. It's obviously more than ready for an update. So, for 2010, Polaris finally gave the Scrambler that much-needed update. Walking up to the Scrambler, it's easy to spot the visual changes for 2010. You'll quickly notice the new for 2010 plastic with a bit edgier look and more creases ironed in. The floorboards are now a more integral part of the fenders. Also part of the facelift is the new headlight that's now molded into the nose rather than up on the bars like a Baja racer. The front bumper's been modified, now being a bit larger, and the seat has been fluffed up for added comfort, and a gas gauge has been added to the top of the now 4-gallon gas tank. Less noticeable, but perhaps more important, are the modifications to strengthen the frame and add thicker skid protection to the underside. The front struts have been modified a bit to allow for separate front spindles, and the springs have also been changed front and rear to soften the ride and lower the Scrambler a little bit over a half an inch. That suspension sag has the added benefit of increasing the wheelbase about a half an inch as well to 48.5. Now, more than just longer and lower, the new Scrambler is also wider, thanks to a 1/4 inch more offset in each wheel. Amazingly enough, even with this list of revisions, the 2010 Scrambler is still remarkably similar to the old model that it replaces. But that's not necessarily bad. The riding position is comfortable and feels much more like a utility machine than a sport quad, with the thickly padded seat and the tall bars allowing a more upright seating position than the typical crouch sport position. Out on the trails, the CVT transmission seems to hook up pretty well. Now, although the big four-stroke has ample power for just about everyone, but the most power-hungry of riders, its delivery could be a little bit more responsive at tip-in. The lazy power delivery is most likely due to the CVT transmission settings and the carbureted fuel delivery, more than the weight of the machine. The weight does show itself, as once you need to change the direction of the Scrambler, it requires a lot of effort on the rider's part. So, although the Scrambler has the comfort and grunt of a trophy truck on the more open trails, it also has that same lazy handling and lack of desire to change direction when the turns approach. When the throttle is chopped, the engine's braking is darn near perfect in its application. It's far less noticeable than the artificially induced braking that's so prevalent on many of the utility CVT-equipped ATVs, including other Polarises. Now that means it works well for aggressive riding. Letting off in the throttle results in a decreasing speed that's a coast down rather than the abrupt throw you forward with a rear tire skidding that's too often dialed into CVT transmissions in an effort to keep you from having to use the brakes themselves. Now the braking downfall is that combination of a single lever brake system that just doesn't allow full control when entering corners hard, and the rear brake pedal that's raised so high above the floorboards that your boot fits underneath it more comfortably than operating it. So, although we headed into this test more than just a little perplexed at what exactly the purpose that the Scrambler served, after just a few hours out on the trails, we really didn't care about where it fit. The Scrambler is a blast to ride, and while we were riding, that's all that mattered. Now, once we got back to the shop, we realized that, like the KFX 700 or the Renegade, the Scrambler blends and blurs the distinction between sport and utility in an effort to provide a comfortable and capable machine for the recreational rider. Comfortable due to its soft, upright seating and pliable suspension, even at slower speeds, and capable due to its four-wheel drive traction. Now add in the fact that Polaris offers accessories like trailer hitches and racks for the Scrambler, and it only makes the purpose more obscure. And perhaps that's the bottom line. Perhaps the Scrambler's true mission is to completely obliterate the lines between a sport quad's performance and a utility quad's capability. I don't care. Whatever the case, it's fun. And that, my friends, is what it's all about.